In the dark room, Qin Sheng opened her eyes. She could still feel the sharp pain in her heart. Not long ago, there was a knife stab there. She could not forget the feeling of the sharp blade piercing into her heart. The dense pain drilled into her heart and pierced into her bone marrow. Lying on the ground, her blood kept flowing out. It was getting harder and harder for her to breathe. The last person she saw was Qin Sheng, who was also lying on the ground with her eyes wide open. Qin Sheng was dead. Qin Sheng pulled out a knife from her heart and stabbed it at her, choosing to die together with her. Qin Sheng was once Qin Sheng's younger sister, and she was also the person she trusted the most in this world. However, it was her who squeezed out all of her value and wanted her life in the end. Qin Sheng had used her to get close to Fu Hanquan. She had used her to become a master painter. She had used her to become a movie queen. She had used her to develop the Qin real estate into one of the top 500 companies in the world. Qin Sheng had taken all the glory in her arms. On the surface, she appeared innocent and harmless, but everything she had done had put Qin Sheng to death. Jealous of her talent in painting, Qin Sheng used a trick to break her hand. In the end, Qin Sheng had no value. Qin Sheng had poisoned her food and water with slow-acting poison. Every time Qin Sheng recalled something, her hand would grab tightly onto the bedsheet, and her heart was filled with monstrous hatred. Qin Sheng had destroyed her, stolen her family, and taken everything from her. What about now? Wasn't she dead? Why was she still living here? Was it Qin Sheng who saved her and wanted to torture her again? Qin Sheng calmed down. No, Qin Sheng would never save her. She had also killed Qin Sheng, and Qin Sheng was dead. Only then did Qin Sheng take a good look at the surroundings. The dilapidated brick house, the moldy quilt, and a bed that was not even tall enough for her were very familiar. Feng family? Perhaps it was because she had not spoken for a long time, but Qin Sheng's voice was a little hoarse. She clutched her heart. She would never forget this place for the rest of her life. Because she had once lived in this house for 17 years. Everything that had happened here had become a nightmare that she would never forget for the rest of her life. Why would she come back here now? Qin Sheng's brows were tightly furrowed. At this moment, an impatient female voice appeared at the door. Damn girl! Why aren't you up yet? Let me tell you, if you make your sister wait for too long, I will not let you off. Xinmei wore an apron and walked in. When she saw Qin Sheng sitting on the bed, Xinmei became even angrier. Why aren't you up yet? You have a fever and have been lying on the bed for 2 days. Do you really think you are a young miss? Bah, you are just a cheap slut that I torture. Qin Sheng was running a fever. Xinmei couldn't bear to part with the money she had to pay the doctor to get the medicine, so she let Qin Sheng sleep on the bed for 2 days. Xinmei wiped her hands on the apron on her body. She's already here. Hurry up and clean up. Hearing this, Qin Sheng's heart sank, and her face turned cold. It seemed that she had been reborn, back to the day she was brought back to the Qin family. Seeing that Qin Sheng had not moved, Xinmei became impatient. Are you still waiting for me to serve you? A burning smell came from the kitchen. My fish! The Feng family was very poor. Xinmei had to count her days and eat fish every day. It was considered a relatively luxurious thing. At this moment, the fish was burnt. Xinmei blamed it on Qin Sheng. You wretched girl, you're really unlucky. Nothing good has happened to you ever since you came to my house. Xinmei left while cursing. Qin Sheng got up from the bed. It had been 2 days since she had eaten anything. There was meat, vegetables, and white rice on the table in the living room. Qin Sheng couldn't finish a bowl of rice after eating. During the 17 years she had been in the Feng family, Xinmei was reluctant to give her food. Her stomach capacity was already very small. Even if she starved for 2 days, she could only eat a bowl of white rice. A man in a suit walked in and asked, "Is it done?" Xinmei had already scooped up the fish. When she heard the man's words, she walked out of the kitchen and smiled apologetically. Right away. Once the man left, Xinmei glared at Qin Sheng again. Damn girl, hurry up. Qin Sheng did not want to stay in the Feng family either. She returned to her room and simply packed her things. She didn't have many things, so it didn't take long for her to pack them up. Xinmei and the others were already waiting outside the courtyard. When Qin Sheng walked out, Xinmei fiercely warned, "You wretched girl, when you return to the Qin family, you must treat your sister well. If it wasn't for her, you wouldn't have been able to return to the Qin family either. If she tells you to go east, you mustn't go west. Do you understand?" As Xinmei spoke, she was about to twist Qin Sheng's arm when Qin Sheng swept a cold glance at her. Xinmei was afraid and withdrew her hand. She frowned. This Qin Sheng had rebelled against the heavens, hadn't she? She pointed at Qin Sheng and cursed again. Dochka. A hint of impatience flashed across Qin Sheng's eyes. She directly twisted Xinmei's middle finger and said faintly, "You don't have the right to scold me." Xinmei was in so much pain that her face twisted. She shouted at Qin Sheng, "Damn girl, do you want to rebel? Don't think that just because you're the young miss of the Qin family, I can't control you." The scream was ear-piercing. Qin Sheng dug her ear and let go of her. She bent down slightly and laughed softly beside Xinmei's ear. "Don't worry. I will settle everything with you, including your good daughter, for how your family has treated me all these years." After saying that, she took out a piece of candy, tore open the candy wrapper, put the white candy into her mouth, and got into the car. "Damn girl, you've rebelled against the heavens, haven't you? You're really an ingrate. I've raised you for so many years, but you actually spoke to me like this. If it weren't for me, you would have gone to God knows where long ago." Xinmei was shocked by Qin Sheng's words. When she came back to her senses, she let out another round of curses, her saliva flying everywhere. "Drive," Qin Sheng ordered. She had long gotten used to Xinmei's beating and scolding. She had never known why her parents would hate her. It was only after she was brought back that she realized that she wasn't their biological daughter. She and Qin Shuru's identities were swapped. Qin Shuru enjoyed her status as the eldest daughter of the Qin family while she was tortured in the countryside. After she was brought back, her so-called biological parents only saw Qin Shuru as their only daughter. The funny thing was that she had been humbly begging them to give her a little bit of love. Even the little bit of warmth that Qin Shuru had released, she had tried her best to keep it. Qin Sheng sat in the car, looking at the scenery outside the window that was constantly retreating. The corners of her lips curled up slightly, her eyes filled with coldness. It wouldn't happen again. She would never be blinded by this ridiculous warmth in the future. "Qin Shuru, I'm back." When Qin Sheng returned to the Qin family, the Qin family was eating dinner around the table. The butler brought Qin Sheng in, and the three members of the Qin family fell silent for a moment. Lin Shuya sized up Qin Sheng. When she saw her outfit, she frowned. "Sister." Qin Shuru was the first to react. A smile appeared on her face. She put down her chopsticks and walked up to Qin Sheng intimately. She wanted to hold Qin Sheng's arm, but Qin Sheng avoided her. Her refusal was very obvious. Qin Shuru's face was stiff, but she quickly adjusted herself. "Sister, you must be hungry. Come and have dinner." After that, she ordered the servants, "Bring a set of bowls and chopsticks for sister." Qin Sheng glanced at the dining table. Apparently, they had forgotten that she was coming back today. A hint of mockery flashed in her eyes. Qin Sheng walked over and sat down on the chair. Qin Shuru picked up a piece of meat for Qin Sheng. "Sister, eat more. It's rare for you to have such delicious food in the countryside." Qin Hai also said, "Sheng, this place is not like your countryside. You have to get used to the life in H City quickly." Qin Hai had no affection for Qin Sheng, this daughter that he had just picked up. The reason he picked her up was to marry her to a family of equal status and strengthen the power of the Qin family. When he saw Qin Sheng, the disdain in his eyes was obvious. As expected, she had come from the countryside and could not make a name for herself. He did not expect Qin Sheng to have much success. Qin Sheng ignored the hypocritical father-daughter pair. She looked at the food in the bowl and frowned. She pushed the bowl aside, stood up, and walked into the kitchen to get another bowl. "Sister." Qin Shuru bit her lower lip, feeling wronged. Qin Sheng glanced at Qin Shuru and spat out lightly, "Dirty." Bah! Qin Hai threw his chopsticks on the table. Qin Sheng, do you have any manners? I'm a person who doesn't have parents to teach me. Of course, my manners aren't that good. Qin Sheng didn't want to build a good relationship with the Qin family. In her previous life, throwing her dignity on the ground and letting them step on it wouldn't change their sincerity. In their eyes, there was only profit. This time, she came back to stir up the peace in the Qin family. You. Qin Hai's face alternated between green and white. Qin Sheng was in a good mood as she ate her food. Seeing Qin Sheng's appearance, Qin Hai stood up abruptly. He had lost his appetite and walked upstairs. Shenger, look at how angry your father is. Lin Shuya glared at Qin Sheng. Immediately, her gaze fell on Qin Churu, and her gaze softened. Churu, your sister doesn't know manners. Help mommy teach her. Okay, mommy, Qin Churu answered obediently. Thank you for your hard work. Lin Shuya was satisfied. She nodded and went upstairs. She also didn't like Qin Sheng. But after all, she was her daughter, so she couldn't show it clearly. Sister, you're done eating. I'll take you shopping. Your clothes. Speaking of this, Qin Churu thought of how she looked when she first met Qin Sheng. Her upper body was a white t-shirt with a simple jacket over it. Her lower body was a pair of jeans that had been washed until they were white. Her legs were straight and slender. It was a very simple outfit, but it could not hide Qin Sheng's elegance and temperament. Qin Churu looked at Qin Sheng seriously. Her hair fell down and her eyes were bright. Although her face was young, it was unusually exquisite. It was not difficult to see her alluring appearance in the future. She secretly bit her lip. Before this, she did not think much of Qin Sheng. She was just from the countryside. How could she compare to the young miss of the Qin family who had received an aristocratic education since she was young? But now, her alarm bells were ringing. That face and that seemingly innate temperament, no one would think that she was just a peasant. Even if she stood in front of her, she would be inferior. She absolutely could not let Qin Sheng take away her things. Qin Churu adjusted her state of mind and said gently, I will help sister dress up properly. Qin Sheng took a tissue and wiped her mouth. She said with a faint smile, Qin Churu, now that Qin Hai and Lin Shuya are not here, you don't have to pretend with me. Being suddenly exposed, Qin Churu was only 17 years old. Her thoughts were not hidden so deep. In an instant, her face twisted, and she could no longer maintain the good impression she wanted to show to Qin Sheng. When Qin Sheng passed by Qin Churu, her footsteps paused. What doesn't belong to you will never belong to you. Qin Sheng. Qin Churu gritted her teeth. In their eyes, I am the only daughter. I am the only miss of the Qin family, and you are nothing. Miss of the Qin family? Qin Sheng laughed mockingly. She had never cared about this identity. She wanted to create her own glory in this life. Qin Sheng went to the second floor and picked the room on the left. She packed up her things and began to think about her next plan. What she lacked the most now was money. She needed a large amount of startup capital to start a company. It was not easy to get millions of dollars in a short period of time. Soon, she thought of a way. Stock market. Oni. The stock market could make people go bankrupt overnight. It could also make people become rich in a short period of time. Their wealth could increase by several times or even dozens of times. Qin Sheng was the god of stock in the eyes of the investors. She had never made a mistake in stock market. When the Qin Group's capital chain broke, she took the Qin family's remaining funds to the stock market. She increased the Qin family's capital by more than 10 times and saved the Qin family. Only, this credit was snatched away by Qin Churu. After thinking about it, Qin Sheng began to write and draw on the paper. Trading in the stock market also required capital. She listed several ways to make money, and finally locked onto the last one. Just as she put down the pen and paper and didn't knock on the door, a servant came in. The sound of footsteps was very loud, and Qin Sheng frowned unhappily. The servant threw a bunch of clothes and toiletries on the ground and said in a strange voice, "These are your clothes and toiletries. Madam asked me to bring them over." After saying that, she walked out while mumbling, "Do you really think you are a young miss? You are waiting to be served the moment you come back." Through the conversation between Lin Shuya and Qin Hai over the past few days, it was obvious that they did not take Qin Sheng seriously. Not to mention, Qin Sheng went against Qin Hai the moment she came back. The servant was also a bully who was afraid of the strong. Therefore, she did not put Qin Sheng in her eyes. "Wait." Qin Sheng turned around and narrowed her eyes to size up the maids. A small maid? In her previous life, in order to leave a good impression in front of Lin Shuya and Qin Hai, she was used to swallowing her anger. Those maids never treated her as a miss of the Qin family. The maid's attitude toward her could not be avoided by Qin Shuru's instigation. In this life, she would not let herself suffer for some irrelevant people. Qin Sheng sneered, "Who are you to have such an attitude towards your employer? Although I just came back from the countryside, I am still a member of the Qin family. How can I let you, a mere servant, climb over my head? Tell me, if I tell Qin Hai about this, what will he do?" Qin Sheng's imposing manner made the servant instantly quiet down. A chill rose in her heart. When she met Qin Sheng's cold eyes, her mind was filled with Qin Sheng's words. For a moment, she had yet to react. Her heart was filled with anger towards Qin Sheng. She was just an unimportant thing. What right did she have to say such things about her? Even if she was the young miss of the Qin family. The servant's face suddenly froze. Her heart turned cold and her face turned pale. No matter what, Qin Sheng was still the biological daughter of the old master and madam. She was not valued and she was just a small servant. It was obvious which was more important. If Qin Sheng reported her to the old master, she would definitely be fired. Thinking of this, the servant repeatedly apologized to Qin Sheng in a low voice, "Miss, it's my fault for not knowing what's good for me. I'm sorry, I won't do it again." Qin Sheng looked at the door of the room, the meaning in her eyes was very obvious. The servant heaved a sigh of relief and quickly left Qin Sheng's room. Her legs were trembling, and she could not even walk properly. After the maid left, Qin Sheng didn't even look at it. She threw the things that Lin Shuya had prepared for her into the trash can, washed up briefly, and then went to bed. Lying on the bed, Qin Sheng didn't close her eyes for a long time. Thinking about everything that had happened today, she felt like she was in a dream. She never believed in ghosts and monsters, but it had indeed happened to her. She had a chance to do it all over again, and everything that she had lost could be salvaged. Brother Fu, Grand Palu. She would no longer be instigated by others and alienate them. Early the next morning, Qin Sheng got up. Qin Shuro had to go to school early because she had to go to class. When Qin Sheng went downstairs, only Qin Hai and Lin Shuya were having breakfast. Qin Sheng pulled out a chair and sat down at the dining table. "Shenger, I will arrange for you to go to school tomorrow. Your countryside is not as good as H City. The teaching conditions in H City are better, and the standards of the students are also heaven and earth. No matter how good your results are in the countryside, you are still at the bottom of H City. Not to mention, your results are poor to begin with." Qin Hai did not have much hope for Qin Sheng. What could a person who grew up in the countryside have? Fortunately, his family had Churu, who had always been ranked in the top 10 in the school. She had also asked Master Qi to learn how to draw, which had saved some face for him. Qin Sheng did not respond. She only picked up the bread and ate it leisurely. Lin Shuya did not care about her. "I'm full." Qin Sheng ate a few pieces of bread and stood up from her seat. Qin Hai looked at Qin Sheng's clothes and frowned. He turned his head and asked Lin Shuya, "You didn't prepare clothes for Shenger?" Lin Shuya also frowned and said in confusion, "I've already asked the maid to send them over." Qin Hai and Lin Shuya's eyes fell on Qin Sheng at the same time. Qin Sheng narrowed her eyes and thought for a moment. Then, she slowly opened her mouth and said, "It's ugly." Those clothes were all picked by Qin Churu. She had seen Qin Sheng's photos and specially picked out some old and bulky clothes. In her previous life, because of this, Qin Sheng had always been ridiculed as a country bumpkin. Qin Hai and Lin Shuya did not dare to admit that Qin Sheng was their daughter outside. Lin Shuya's face darkened. Qin Sheng was indeed not as considerate and sensible as Rower. "Sheng, since you don't like it, then go and pick a few things that you like." As Qin Hai said that, he took out a card and gave it to her. There are $2,000 in it. Qin Hai felt that he had already fulfilled a father's responsibility by giving Qin Sheng 2,000 yuan. Qin Sheng had grown up in the countryside and had never seen so much pocket money. She would definitely be very touched. Qin Sheng did not take it. She only asked with a slight mocking tone, "Qin Churu also has 2,000 yuan as pocket money?" 20,000. Qin Hai did not hide anything. "Dad, as your biological daughter, can't she be compared to your adopted daughter?" Qin Sheng emphasized the word dad very heavily. This was the first time she had called him dad since her rebirth. She had already repaid their kindness in her previous life. In this life, she would not make any compromises because of them. She would take back everything that should be hers. As soon as she finished speaking, Lin Shuya jumped out. "Qin Sheng, how can you compare to Rower? Rower has many friends, so she naturally has many places that need to spend money. You just came back from the countryside, so why would you need to spend money?" Qin Sheng ignored Lin Shuya and only looked at Qin Hai indifferently. The smile on Qin Hai's face was about to be broken. Being stared at by Qin Sheng, his heart was filled with embarrassment. He changed his words and said, "I wasn't thoughtful. Sheng, you will have the same pocket money as Rower in the future." Qin Sheng had no intention of letting Qin Hai go. How much pocket money did Qin Churu receive in the past 18 years? "Qin Sheng." Lin Shuya's face was livid with anger. "Do you want to take all of Rower's things away?" If it wasn't for the change of identity, Qin Churu would have become what you call a country bumpkin. Everything she enjoys now doesn't belong to her in the first place, so why would I want to take it away? Qin Sheng sneered and asked Qin Hai, "Dad, I think you won't mistreat your biological daughter?" Qin Hai was someone who cared about his face. He wasn't short of money, so he immediately said, "I'll give you 200,000 first. I'll save the rest for your dowry." Lin Shuya felt her heart ache when she heard that. Qin Sheng was only a high school student. Giving her money would only be a waste. Spending it on her was just a waste of money. 200,000 could buy several sets of clothes for Rower. Lin Shuya wanted to stop Qin Hai, but she was glared at by Qin Hai and reluctantly withdrew her hand. Her already bad impression of Qin Sheng was even worse. Lin Shuya secretly rejoiced in her heart. Fortunately, she had carried the wrong child back then. Otherwise, Qin Churu would not have become her daughter. Qin Sheng took the card and put it into his pocket. 200,000 was not much, but Qin Hai would not give her more money. "Grandpalu, bradarfu." Qin Sheng's eyes turned red as she looked at the villa behind the iron bars. They were the people who had truly treated her well in this world, but she had let them down. It was not until her death that Fu Hanchuan's painful cries rang in her ears that she truly understood. Fortunately, she had a chance to do it all over again. Qin Sheng did not knock on the door and enter. She only stayed outside for an hour. When she left, a car passed by her. Qin Sheng's figure flashed past, and a familiar figure appeared in Fu Hanchuan's mind. He slammed on the brakes, opened the car door, and ran out. However, Fu Hanchuan looked for a long distance, but he did not see the figure he saw. Fu Hanchuan could not help but pinch the space between his eyebrows. It seemed that he was hallucinating. She was just a woman who appeared in his dream. She did not exist in reality. Fu Hanchuan got into the car, started it up again, and drove back to the villa. When Grandfather Lu saw Fu Hanchuan, he blew on his beard. Fu Hanchuan, have you sent someone to look for her? Fu Hanchuan slowly rolled up his sleeves, took the scissors from Grandfather Lu, and trimmed the tall grass. There will be news in the next 2 days. Grandfather Lu was satisfied. The first time I saw that girl, I really liked her. One look and I knew she was good. If it weren't for her, my old bones would have been buried. Hanchuan, when you see her, you can't be cold and scare the little girl. His grandson was good in everything, but he was too cold and didn't care about anything. His personality was similar to that girl's. Thinking of this, old Master Lu's eyes lit up. He looked Fu Hanchuan up and down and stroked his beard thoughtfully. His grandson was much older than her, but he would dote on her when he was older. She was good-looking, and his grandson wasn't bad either. They could be a good match. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that it was possible. He nodded repeatedly and said, Hanchuan, remember to bring her home when you find her. Fu Hanchuan's hand paused and he frowned. He did not feel much rejection in his heart. After Qin Sheng left the Gu family villa, she first went to buy a few sets of clothes. Then, she went to the computer city to buy a computer and then a mobile phone. When she returned to the Qin family, no one cared about her. Lin Shuya and Qin Hai stayed in the room. When Qin Churu saw Qin Sheng, her eyes were filled with contempt and she did not say a word. Qin Sheng was also happy and at ease. After closing the door, she turned on her computer and logged on to the hacker's website. The Hacker Empire, or Black Emperor for short. Black Emperor gathered hacker experts from all over the world and was divided into 2 parts. One was a forum for hackers to chat on, and the other was a competition arena. It was similar to a game, but the difference was the target of the attack was either virtual or a direct attack on a real-life network. In her previous life, Qin Sheng had also discovered this website by chance, so she did not pay too much attention to it. After registering her account, Qin Sheng posted a battle post. QS Challenge $10,000 once. Her tone was cold. After waiting for 10 minutes, there was still no response. Qin Sheng logged out of the website, opened the financial website, and began to check the stock market. The mouse swiped, and page after page flashed past. Qin Sheng read very quickly, and very quickly, she finished flipping through the stocks that were now listed. Qin Sheng's delicate brows furrowed slightly. What she pursued were high returns. These stocks were not very good choices. Her fingertips tapped on the mouse lightly, and the computer changed to the pages of the stocks that were about to be listed. Qin Sheng patiently browsed through them one by one. When she saw the last stock, her gaze froze. She had heard of this stock in her previous life. The market had just opened, and unlike other newly listed stocks, the stock price had fallen like a precipice. For a time, it had fallen to the price of cabbage. The stock investors sold off one after another. This stock had reached the point where no one wanted it. However, 3 days later, the company threw out a big piece of news. The stock price instantly soared. In just a short week, it had risen more than 18 times. Qin Sheng supported her chin with her hand, and the corners of her lips curled up into a smile. There was still a week before the stock was listed. She could use this time to raise the capital. Black Emperor was the fastest way for her to earn money. The next day, Qin Sheng was brought to H City High School. In the office, the class teacher and grade teacher were arguing until their faces were red and their necks were thick. I don't care. I don't agree to let Qin Sheng join our class. I don't want rat poop to spoil the whole pot of porridge. She received a bonus every year. Qin Sheng, a poor student who came back from the countryside, would lower the average score of their class and delay her bonus. She would never allow such a situation to happen. Teacher Liang, student Qin Sheng is a promising talent. The grade teacher also had a terrible headache. The Qin family donated a gym to the school. They had specifically asked Qin Sheng to join Class 1. The principal had given this task to him. H City High School had 4 classes in grade 3. Class 1 to Class 4, Class 1 was the best, and Class 4 was the worst. For the sake of face, Qin Hai naturally hoped that Qin Sheng could stay in the best class. Liang Hua snorted coldly, but still did not agree. She sat on the chair and no longer paid attention to the grade director. She took out her phone and casually swiped it. The grade director rubbed the space between his eyebrows. His headache was getting worse. Niai. At this moment, Qin Sheng walked in. She was still wearing simple jeans, white t-shirts, and a jacket, but her entire person seemed to be emitting a dazzling light. The grade director was stunned for a moment and shouted, "Student Qin Sheng." "Director, I'm not going to Class 1. The grade director looked at Qin Sheng in surprise. Class 1 was the best class. Everyone was trying their best to get in, but this was the first time someone had suggested not going to Class 1. Liang Hua snorted coldly, displeased with Qin Sheng even more. It was one thing for her to reject Qin Sheng entering Class 1, but for Qin Sheng to suggest not going to Class 1 on her own accord, wasn't that equivalent to throwing her face on the ground and stepping on it? "Why?" the grade director asked. Qin Sheng narrowed her eyes slightly and looked at Teacher Liang. In her previous life, when she had entered Class 1, Liang Hua had made things difficult for her everywhere. Because of Qin Churu's pleas, she had deliberately concealed her results. Every time, she had scored a 0 in the exam, filled in the multiple-choice questions, filled in the blanks, and never did any other questions. After every exam, Liang Hua would use her results to humiliate her in front of the entire class. Qin Churu was also in Class 1. She did not wish to have to compete with Liang Hua and Qin Churu in terms of intelligence and courage during the year of the 3rd year of high school. Qin Sheng retracted her gaze and replied indifferently, "My results are not worthy of Teacher Liang's class." Liang Hua was so angry that her face turned red. However, she had said this before and could not refute it. The grade teacher did not agree immediately. He was still in a difficult position. After all, Qin Sheng could not represent Qin Hai. Qin Sheng continued, "On his side, I will talk to him. Teacher can make whatever arrangements he wants." The grade teacher looked at Qin Sheng with admiration and gratitude. He turned his head and glanced at the other 3 class teachers who were sitting in their seats. "Which one of you is willing to let Qin Sheng join your class?" When the class teachers of Class 2 and Class 3 heard this, they lowered their heads in unison. No one was willing to let a poor student like Qin Sheng join their class. This would affect the average grade of the entire class and even the enrollment rate. Only Class 4's form teacher, Teacher Lin, stood up. She was a doctoral student who had just graduated 2 years ago. This year was her first year as a form teacher. She had always been isolated by the other 3 form teachers in the office. Pushing her glasses, Teacher Lin asked gently, "Student Qin Sheng, would you like to join our Class 4? Qin Sheng nodded. "Class 4, I'll go." "All right, Student Qin Sheng will go to Class 4. The grade teacher nodded in satisfaction. "Come with me to go through the enrollment procedures now." As soon as Qin Sheng and the grade teacher left, Teacher Liang said disdainfully, picking up all kinds of junk. The other 2 grade teachers were also mocking Teacher Lin. "Teacher Lin, if you take in Qin Sheng, I'm afraid the average score of your class will be lowered by a lot." "Teacher Qin, what you said is wrong. Class 4 is the worst class. The poor students are gathered together. One more Qin Sheng isn't much, and one less Qin Sheng isn't much. It's all the same." Lin Lauscher lowered her head and corrected the assignments earnestly. She circled the mistakes made by the students one by one and added notes. The few teachers didn't receive any response. Feeling bored, they went about their own business. After completing the admission procedures, Qin Sheng and Teacher Lin entered Class 4 together. The Chinese teacher who was in class nodded and left the classroom. When they saw Teacher Lin, the noisy class 4 instantly quieted down. Don't look at how weak Teacher Lin was. In fact, she was even scarier than the disciplined teacher. Every once in a while, a student would be invited to the office to drink tea. When they came back, they were all terrified when they mentioned Teacher Lin. As soon as Teacher Lin appeared, they became obedient students. Soon, they noticed that the young girl beside Teacher Lin was standing quietly at the side. She seemed to be a shining body, naturally becoming the center of the crowd. After a brief introduction to Qin Sheng, Teacher Lin left. Qin Sheng sat in her seat with one hand supporting her chin and the other hand casually flipping through her textbook. Her expression was lazy. She studied science. As long as she wanted to, she could get full marks in mathematics, biology, chemistry, and physics. However, she was very biased in her subjects, so it was normal for her to fail Chinese. However, she had never been willing to admit defeat. In her previous life, she spent a lot of effort to learn Chinese. Now, Chinese could be said to be her best class. The Chinese teacher was lecturing on the podium. Qin Sheng's eyelids became heavier and heavier. Soon, she fell into a deep sleep on the desk. She had not been in class for 5 to 6 years. Now that she was in class, it was as if she was listening to a monk reciting scriptures. It was normal for the students of class 4 to sleep, and the teacher could not control them. Basically, they turned a blind eye to the sleeping students. Qin Sheng was not disturbed throughout the entire class. The Chinese class was over very quickly. The bell for the end of class rang, and Qin Sheng woke up as well. Bang! Bang! A boy with a buzz cut walked up to Qin Sheng and knocked on her desk loudly. Qin Sheng glanced at him lightly. What's the matter? Lin Feng's temper flared up. New classmate, you're very cocky. He was the boss of this class. As soon as Qin Sheng appeared, his sense of danger immediately rose. He felt that his boss position was no longer secure. Although Qin Sheng's looks were stunning and matched the standards of his dream goddess, he still did not like this Qin Sheng, both inside and outside. Qin Sheng retracted her gaze and opened her textbook. Does he, Lin Feng, really look so weak? He glanced at Qin Sheng from head to toe, but Qin Sheng didn't even give him a glance. Smoke was coming out of Lin Feng's head. If Qin Sheng was a man, he would have beaten her to the ground, but she was a woman. No matter how much he messed around, he wouldn't do anything to a woman, not to mention that this woman was pretty decent looking. Lin Feng clenched his fists and coughed lightly. Student Qin, you just entered class 4. As a new member, do you know what to do? I know. Qin Sheng stood up. Lin Feng nodded in satisfaction. Not bad, she knew some rules. However, the next second, he heard Qin Sheng say, let's have a competition. You can do whatever you want with the questions. If you lose, you can't disturb me anymore. Lin Feng. The other students of class 4. The classroom was silent for a few seconds before bursting into laughter. Brother Feng, I'm afraid that something is wrong with my ears. What did I hear? F***ck, this new chick is really hot. Qin Sheng, for the sake of your pretty face, let me remind you that Brother Feng is unbeatable in the entire school. Think carefully before you act. Don't cry later. Lin Feng was also laughing so hard that his body was shaking. He held his stomach and said, Student Qin, your small arms and legs will break if I twist them. Don't come up here to be abused. Also, I'm a gentleman. I don't hit girls. Don't talk nonsense. Qin Sheng frowned impatiently. She took a step forward and grabbed Lin Feng's wrist. With a twist, a male voice screamed. Tears streamed down Lin Feng's face like a man. The students who were watching the show took a step back in unison. Looking at Lin Feng, they all felt pain. Qin Sheng had been beaten up when she was young. When she went back and told her parents, they scolded her in return. Qin Sheng no longer had any hope. She could only rely on herself. As expected, when others hit her, she would hit them back. She was also a strong person. Basically, not many people were her opponents. There were a few times when she beat them up and sent them to the hospital. In primary school, junior high school, and the high school that she used to stay in, her reputation as the little tyrant was resounding. Qin Sheng was not someone who was willing to be wronged. She came to class for naturally because she did not want to see other people's expressions. As for the relationship between classmates, she did not care. She was already used to being alone. Lin Feng's tears fell. This was really too King painful. Qin Sheng's expression was indifferent. She twisted Lin Feng's wrist again. The surrounding students of Class 4 who were watching the show only heard a soft gotcha sound. Lin Feng's originally dislocated wrist was fixed, accompanied by Lin Feng's wailing and screaming. F***ck. Lin Feng, who had been freed, was burning with anger. He did not care about the principle of boys not hitting girls anymore. He wanted to teach Qin Sheng a lesson. He reached out his hand and wanted to grab Qin Sheng's shoulder. F***ck woman, F***ck his gentleman. However, in the next second, bang! Lin Feng fell to the ground. Qin Sheng calmly retracted her foot and sat back down. Brother Feng. The few underlings were stunned for a moment and quickly helped Lin Feng up. A light bulb appeared on Lin Feng's forehead. He held his forehead and stood up unsteadily. He let out a heavy breath. At this moment, the bell for class rang. It was Teacher Lin's class again. Lin Feng pointed at Qin Sheng and said through gritted teeth, "School ends at noon. See you at the basketball court." He wanted to teach this woman a good lesson and let her know who was the boss. Teacher Lin entered the classroom and Qin Sheng naturally fell asleep on the table. The girls behind stared at Qin Sheng with red hearts in their eyes. How handsome! The girls in front also turned their heads from time to time. Even some of the boys almost called Qin Sheng daddy. Who among the boys didn't have a martial arts dream? Previously, the one they admired the most was Lin Feng because he was good at fighting. Now, Qin Sheng had already defeated Lin Feng twice. The boys had no moral integrity and leaned towards Qin Sheng. Whoever was good would be their boss. Teacher Lin, who was copying a math question, turned around and saw Qin Sheng sleeping. Her eyes were half closed as she adjusted her glasses. A piece of chalk landed accurately on Qin Sheng's desk. "Student Qin Sheng, come up and solve this question on the blackboard." Qin Sheng did not respond, probably because she was asleep. Qin Sheng's desk mate was a round-faced girl with some baby fat on her face. She looked very cute, so she quickly shook Qin Sheng awake. Qin Sheng raised her head. Her sleepy eyes were a little drowsy. She didn't react for a moment. "What's the matter?" "Teacher asked you to go up and do the questions." Huang Xiaoyan covered her heart. She was almost blown away by Qin Sheng's contrast of cuteness. "Thank you." Qin Sheng nodded and walked up to the podium. She held the chalk and frowned at the question. Seeing that Qin Sheng didn't start to answer for a long time, Teacher Lin turned around and began to explain, "This is the 21st question of the college entrance exam 5 years ago. It's the most difficult question. It's okay if you can't solve it. This time, I asked this sleeping classmate to come up and answer it to remind you." Teacher Lin turned around and wanted to point at Qin Sheng. When she saw the content on the blackboard, she was instantly stunned. She held her glasses and said, "Now, let's see if Qin Sheng's answer is correct." "Teacher, can I go back to my seat now?" Qin Sheng asked. "Go ahead." Teacher Lin waved her hand as she looked at the answer on the blackboard. After watching the entire process, Teacher Lin's mouth opened slightly. She asked in surprise, "Student Qin Sheng, have you studied any university courses?" This question was used to test a student's ability to comprehensively apply knowledge during the 3 years of high school. There were many steps and it was very difficult. If one used university mathematics knowledge to solve it, it would be easy to understand. Qin Sheng used university mathematics to complete it. Although Teacher Lin's high mathematics score was also very high, she had never thought of using this method to solve this question. I've learned a little. Qin Sheng had almost forgotten most of her high school knowledge. She only remembered part of the university knowledge. This question was answered perfectly. Student Qin Sheng, pay attention next time. You must listen carefully in class. The students of class 4 looked at Qin Sheng in surprise. Some of them were good at math, but they didn't expect Qin Sheng to solve it so quickly. And she was using the knowledge of the university. Wasn't Qin Sheng a bad student? Teacher Lin erased Qin Sheng's answer from the blackboard. It was high school now, so the students didn't need to learn knowledge outside of the syllable. After giving some time for the students to answer, Teacher Lin began to explain. Teacher Lin prepared the lesson seriously, and the class was interesting and lively. Even the students in class 4 who did not like to learn could not help but immerse themselves in it. Qin Sheng did not feel sleepy anymore. The class quickly passed. At noon, Qin Sheng arrived at the basketball court as scheduled. All the students in class 4 had arrived. Standing in the middle of the basketball court, Lin Feng twirled the basketball with his fingertips. Then, he threw the basketball up and accurately entered the basketball hoop. Lin Feng nodded in satisfaction and looked at Qin Sheng again. He crossed his arms and said in a tone that deserved a beating, Qin Sheng, you can find any helpers you want. No need. Qin Sheng narrowed her eyes and looked at the position of the basketball. It was not high. Lin Feng instantly exploded in anger. No, he had to suppress this woman's arrogance. If he did not teach her a good lesson, where would he put his face? Begin. The referee whistled and the game officially began. The one who snatched the ball was Lin Feng. He shot a ball and scored. Brother Feng, great. Lin Feng's underlings supported Lin Feng at the right time. Lin Feng's second goal was scored again. Brother Feng, awesome. Oh, the third goal was also scored. Brother Feng, you're so domineering. Lin Feng panted and looked at Qin Sheng proudly. If you had admitted defeat earlier, you wouldn't have lost so badly. Cut the crap. Qin Sheng took the ball and dodged Lin Feng's interception. She stood outside the three-point line and exerted force with her hand. The ball was shot toward the basketball in a parabolic arc. Everyone's eyes followed the basketball. Lin Feng snorted in disdain. A three-point shot. She did not even look at herself to see if she had the ability. Unsurprisingly, Lin Feng was slapped in the face again. The basketball went straight into the basket. It went in. It went in. Lin Feng was dumbfounded. He looked at Qin Sheng. There was no joy on Qin Sheng's face, as if it was a matter of course. Lin Feng withdrew his sloppy attitude and began to treat the game seriously. However, he had no more chances. Next, as long as Qin Sheng got the ball, he did not even have a chance to touch the ball. Qin Sheng hit the ball one by one, and all of them were three-pointers. If he got the ball, Qin Sheng would snatch it away. After a basketball game, Lin Feng was exhausted and collapsed on the ground, almost unable to get up. The result was obvious. Lin Feng had lost miserably. Lin Feng took the water from one of his underlings and took a big gulp. He was unwilling to face the fact that he had been defeated by a girl. Huang Xiaoyan, Qin Sheng's desk mate, asked with starry eyes, Sheng, have you learned basketball before? No. Qin Sheng saw Huang Xiaoyan and her eyes softened. She couldn't help but reach out to pinch Huang Xiaoyan's baby fat face. Few people knew that she liked cute things. You're still so good at playing before you learned. Huang Xiaoyan was even more impressed by Qin Sheng. Qin Sheng glanced at Lin Feng and said honestly, maybe I learned it faster. F***ck. Lin Feng spat out a mouthful of water and couldn't stop choking. She was good at fighting and playing basketball. Was she still a woman? Lin Feng slid up from the ground and blurted out, Dad. No, 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 it's Sister Sheng. Lin Feng changed his words timidly when he received Qin Sheng's light gaze. Sister Sheng, I, Lin Feng, will recognize you as my boss from now on. Lin Feng glanced at his underlings who had followed him for 2 years. He closed his eyes and said with a pained expression, You guys will do the same in the future. Remember to call her Sister Sheng. Lin Feng's underlings obediently followed suit and called out in unison, Sister Sheng. Qin Sheng took the water that Huang Xiaoyan had brought for her and paused. I won't snatch your boss position. I'm not interested. Lin Feng was delighted. Sister Sheng, from now on, if you want me to go east, I won't go west. If there's anything, just let me know. After Lin Feng finished speaking, he kept on saying flattering words. Qin Sheng frowned impatiently and left. Lin Feng kept blowing at Qin Sheng. He didn't even know when she left. At night, when Qin Sheng returned to the Qin family, Qin Hai sat on the sofa in the living room with a cold face. He said in a deep voice, Let me ask you, why don't you go to class 1? Also, as a girl, do you think it's proper for you to fight with others? My grades are not good enough for class 1. I can't change my grades from fighting, Qin Sheng said coldly. Qin Hai's face was livid with anger. Qin Sheng tilted her head and thought for a moment. Then, she laughed lightly with a mocking look in her eyes. Don't worry. Other than the few people in the school who you told, no one will know that I'm your daughter, Qin Hai, and I won't embarrass you. As for whether I'm outstanding or not, you won't care, right? She wouldn't tell anyone that she was Qin Hai's daughter. She wouldn't care about this identity anymore, let alone reveal it to others. This blood that was related to them by blood, she wished that she could shed it. Qin Hai was hit in the heart and became even angrier. Qin Sheng, you're my daughter. How can you say that about your own father? Do you treat me as your daughter? Qin Sheng glanced at Qin Hai and sneered. I'm afraid that your daughter is only Qin Churu. After saying that, she ignored Qin Hai and went straight upstairs. Her back was straight and her figure was thin. Walking alone on the stairs, she looked frail and helpless. Unfortunately, Qin Hai didn't take any of this to heart. He was so angry that he slammed the table. If I knew this would happen, I wouldn't have brought her back. Lin Shuya glanced at Qin Hai from the corner of her eyes and said unhappily, I told you that Roer would be our only daughter. You were the one who insisted on bringing her back. Didn't I do this for the sake of our Qin family? Qin Sheng is a good-looking girl. If we can find a suitable match for her to marry, she will be able to help our Qin family a lot. Qin Hai's words fell into the ears of Qin Sheng, who was about to open the door on the 2nd floor. The corners of her lips curled up into a mocking smile. She had never understood that Qin Hai and Lin Shuya did not like her and still wanted to bring her back. So this was the reason. They treated their only biological daughter as a tool to exchange for benefits, while Qin Churu, the adopted daughter, was spoiled to the heavens by them. How ridiculous was that? Qin Sheng was no longer interested in their next conversation. She directly opened the door and walked in. The thick layer of the door isolated her from the outside. Qin Sheng took a shower and sat cross-legged on the bed with the computer in her hand. She put the computer on her lap and turned it on. She logged into the Black Emperor and found that her post had sunk long ago. No one responded. Qin Sheng frowned slightly in confusion. Was her way of posting the post too gentle? She tilted her head and pondered for a while. The corners of her lips curled up slightly with a hint of arrogance. Her fair and beautiful fingertips flew over the keyboard and typed an extremely arrogant sentence. QS. I looked at your results and concluded with a few words, bad. No standards at all. I really don't know how you guys became hacker experts. It seems that the famous Black Emperor is just SOSO. Qin Sheng even deliberately at the top few hackers among the Black Emperor, provoking them. If you have the guts, then compete with me. Unless you're a coward, worried that you can't compete with a newcomer. After Qin Sheng posted a new post, she turned off her computer. She basically couldn't remember the knowledge from high school now. She needed to study hard. She took out her Chinese textbook. As long as she went through it once, the knowledge she had learned in her previous life would reappear in her mind, and she would be able to apply the knowledge from one example to another. Qin Sheng was a genius. However, she had been living in a persecuted environment since she was young. She could only carefully hide her edge. She had just finished junior high school when Shinmei stopped her from going to school. Qin Sheng could only work and study at the same time. She also gave a portion of the money she earned from her work to Shinmei. She did not want her to see her excellence, so she was able to finish her second year of high school in the town. Qin Sheng flipped through the textbook very seriously and quickly. In less than 2 hours, she finished flipping through one textbook and took out another Chinese textbook for the first and second semester of high school. Downstairs, the family of 3 was performing a scene of deep love. Qin Hai and Lin Shuya had a fight over Qin Sheng. The two of them sat on one side of the sofa, sulking. Qin Shuru came out to help. "Dad, Mom, thank you for liking me so much. Even after knowing that I'm not your biological daughter, you still treat me like your biological daughter." As she said this, her eyes turned red and she cried. "It's all my fault. If it weren't for me, sister wouldn't have misunderstood you. If I moved out, the 3 of you wouldn't be so noisy." How could Lin Shuya see her daughter, who had been doted on since young, crying like this? Her heart immediately ached. She hugged Qin Shuru's shoulder. She comforted her with heartache. "Roar, you'll always be Mom and Dad's daughter. Our biological daughter. You don't have to move out. You're not an outsider." "But, sister, your sister is not sensible. Don't bother about her." At the mention of Qin Sheng, Lin Shuya felt stifled in her heart. She did not understand why her daughter was not as good as Roar. "Mom, sister will definitely understand how good you are to her." Upon hearing this, Lin Shuya's heart melted. It was better to raise a daughter by her side since she was young. Look, how thoughtful and sensible was she. Qin Hai looked at her and his eyes unconsciously softened. "Roar, don't worry. The Qin family will always be your home." Qin Shuru was thoughtful, intelligent, and had good grades. No matter which aspect, Qin Sheng could not be compared to her. At least, in Qin Hai's heart, she was like this. Qin Shuru, who was being held in Lin Shuya's arms, lowered her eyebrows and her eyes were full of pride. "Qin Sheng, you can't take it back. Even if you were brought back, you would still be something that your parents didn't want." She was the only young miss of the Qin family. Qin Shuru seemed to be able to imagine how Qin Sheng would look like in the future. There was an indescribable joy in her heart. The next day, there was an English class. The English teacher was Liang Hua. Because of yesterday's incident, she didn't like Qin Sheng very much. She wanted to make things difficult for her in class and embarrass her. Girls cared about their face the most. She asked Qin Sheng to get up and answer a few questions. The questions she asked were also ones that she had spent a lot of effort to find out. Even if she did not look at the answers, it was difficult to guarantee that she could answer all of them. Liang Hua even thought of the words to humiliate Qin Sheng, but she was choked to death by Qin Sheng. Qin Sheng actually answered all of them, and there was not a single wrong answer. In the end, Qin Sheng also asked her a question. Liang Hua thought for a long time but still could not answer it. She had lost all her face. She didn't expect that the one who lost her face wasn't Qin Sheng, but herself. When the bell rang, Liang Hua heaved a sigh of relief and walked out of class with her courseware. "Ha ha ha." As soon as she walked out of the classroom, a burst of laughter came from class 4. There was also the sound of people slapping the table. Liang Hua's face alternated between green and white. She didn't dare to go back and question them. She could only swallow the anger she had suffered in class 4. In the classroom, Qin Sheng was surrounded by a circle. They were all extremely impressed by Qin Sheng. Liang Hua had always looked down on this group of poor students in class 4. In class, she would always mock them. They had long disliked her. Their grades were not good, but they still had their dignity. Moreover, it was not that they did not want to study. It was just that their foundations were poor. They could not keep up with the pace in grade 3, so they were tired of studying. Huang Xiaoyan's eyes were filled with admiration as she said, "Sheng Sheng, you're so amazing. This is the first time I've seen Liang Hua suffer." Yes, Sister Sheng, this is so *king satisfying. Lin Feng's admiration for Qin Sheng was like a torrential river, surging endlessly. "Oh, Sister Sheng, you're too awesome." I'm clapping my hands in admiration. Waves of rainbow-colored farts started to blow again. Qin Sheng lazily leaned back on the chair and wore a loose school uniform on her body. Qin Sheng was very thin, and the school uniform made her look especially weak. It was this kind of girl who hid a huge amount of strength. After they finally quieted down, Qin Sheng gently knocked on the table and lazily glanced at them. "Are you guys going to take revenge on Liang Hua?" "Of course." Lin Feng nodded repeatedly and leaned over again. He asked expectantly, "Sister Sheng, do you have any good ideas?" Everyone looked at Qin Sheng expectantly. "Improve your results." Qin Sheng's tone was very indifferent. Lin Feng was suddenly absent-minded and lost his energy. He sat back in his seat. "Forget about my results. If you want me to study, I might as well commit suicide." The rest of class 4 also returned to their seats. Obviously, they had rejected Qin Sheng's request. They could not compare to Class 1. Class 1's studies were for Imperial Capital University, but they could not even take the second textbook. The bell rang for class. This was a self-study class. Qin Sheng took out a chemistry book and read it seriously. She could flip through Chinese very quickly, but for the contents of the science subjects like chemistry and physics, she needed to solve the questions over and over again before she could master them. She read very seriously, and the classroom was also very quiet. There was only the sound of flipping and writing. Huang Xiaoyan took out a bag of potato chips and was about to stuff it into her mouth. Seeing that Qin Sheng was studying seriously, she inexplicably felt that the delicious potato chips were no longer as delicious. She silently stuffed it into the desk and took out a book. Perhaps it was because of Qin Sheng's seriousness, or perhaps it was because they took her words to heart. The other students in class 4 also took out their textbooks. Biting the pen, they seriously browsed through the knowledge in the textbooks. The classroom was eerily quiet. Lin Feng, who was sleeping on the table, raised his head, rubbed his eyes, and scanned the classroom. He saw that everyone, except for him, was reading or writing. Lin Feng. He had only slept for a while. What happened? They were all studying. Lin Feng wanted to speak, but he opened his mouth, but was too embarrassed to break the silence. Touching the back of his head, Lin Feng placed his hand on the textbook. Even the teacher in charge, Teacher Lin, who had come to inspect the class, was shocked. Had this group of little brats changed their minds? Her gaze then fell on Qin Sheng, and a flash of understanding appeared in her eyes. She adjusted her glasses. It seemed that she had gotten a good seedling. At that time, she had asked Qin Sheng to join her class because she had taken a liking to her clean temperament. This student was obviously a good person. Her grades might not be good, but a good person was enough. As expected, she was not surprised. Qin Sheng had only been in the class for 2 days, but the class had changed so much. Teacher Lin was thinking, when Liang Hua and the others found out that Qin Sheng's grades were good, would they be so angry that they would vomit blood? If Qin Sheng's other subjects were as good as mathematics, her grades might not even be as good as Su Yi's. After the English class, it was time for school to end. In a car at the school gate, Fu Hanchuan was sitting in the back seat. He flipped through the document in his hand and saw Qin Sheng's information. Qin Sheng. Fu Hanchuan called out in a low voice. His voice was deep and his gaze fell on Qin Sheng's photo. There seemed to be light in his eyes. His girl was not just an illusion in his dream. She was real. Fu Hanchuan had a secret that no one knew. When he was very young, he had fallen in love with the girl who often appeared in his dreams, even though that dream was not beautiful. One by one, students wearing school uniforms came out of the school one after another. Fu Hanchuan got out of the car, and the first thing he saw was the thin figure in the crowd. Fu Hanchuan was a little nervous. He lowered his head and looked at the clothes on his body. There was nothing wrong with it, so he walked over and stopped Qin Sheng. Qin Sheng was 1.6 meters tall. In his previous life, she was 1.68 meters tall. She was not fully grown yet, only reaching Fu Hanchuan's shoulders. Fu Hanchuan lowered his eyebrows and looked at the girl. He called out the name he had practiced countless times in the car. In a gentle and mellow voice, he said, Sheng Sheng. Qin Sheng was stunned. She looked up and saw Fu Hanchuan. Her pupils constricted slightly. She subconsciously made the same action as in her previous life and took a step back. Fu Hanchuan's eyes darkened for a moment, but he soon felt relieved. Qin Sheng could be said to be the girl he had known for many years, but to Qin Sheng, he was just a stranger. Lu Zhonghua, my grandfather. Fu Hanchuan took out a photo of old Master Lu. Grandpa Lu. Qin Sheng's eyes trembled slightly. She saw Grandpa Lu again, even though it was only the photo of him. Sheng Sheng, my grandfather wants to see you. He said he wants to repay you for saving his life. So, can you come home with me and meet him? Fu Hanchuan looked at Qin Sheng and sent her an invitation. Qin Sheng's long eyelashes fluttered and she nodded. Of course, she was willing to go. From the moment she was reborn, she had dreamed of meeting Grandpa Gu and Brother Fu, but she didn't dare to. In her previous life, they had repeatedly reminded her that Qin Shuru wasn't a good person, but she thought that they were biased against Qin Shuru and estranged them because of Qin Shuru's instigation. She was the kind of person who treated kindness like a donkey's liver and lungs. Fu Hanchuan pinched his fingers, wanting to rub Qin Sheng's fluffy hair. He took a deep breath and made up his mind to raise his hand. However, Qin Sheng got into the car. Fu Hanchuan smiled helplessly and sat in the back seat of the car. Beside him was Qin Sheng, the girl he had liked for many years. Fu Hanchuan had rarely been nervous since he was young, so he became nervous again. Qin Sheng's sweet scent entered Fu Hanchuan's nose, and there was also a faint smell of milk. Fu Hanchuan moved closer to Qin Sheng without moving. Qin Sheng was not a talkative person, and Fu Hanchuan was also a dull person. He rarely talked and would not create a topic. Fu Hanchuan wanted to talk to Qin Sheng, but he did not know what to say. The two of them went back to the Lu family home quietly. When old Master Lu heard that Qin Sheng was coming, he was overjoyed. He had been waiting in front of the villa for a long time. After waiting for an hour, Qin Sheng finally came. Sheng Sheng. Seeing Qin Sheng, old Master Lu took Qin Sheng's hand in a familiar manner and walked toward the villa, forgetting about his grandson. Fu Hanchuan wolkte beindli zurli. When he saw old Master Lu's hand on Qin Sheng's white wrist, he felt a trace of jealousy in his heart. Sheng Sheng, ever since I came back, I've been thinking about you. I've missed you so much. As he spoke, he glared at Fu Hanchuan. It's all because of this brat. He's been keeping me in the hospital. When I got home, he didn't let me go out either. I asked him to look for you. It took him so many days to find you. Qin Sheng had a smile in her eyes. It felt good to be able to hear Grandpa Lu's nagging in her ear. Grandpa Lu glanced at Fu Hanchuan and asked with a smile, Sheng Sheng, how old are you? Fu Hanchuan was listening attentively. I'll be 18 in 2 months, Qin Sheng answered obediently. 18, Grandpa Lu smiled even more happily. His grandson was just 5 years older than her. 5 years was the most appropriate age gap. Master Lu's little calculations were ringing in his mind. It was not easy for him to meet a girl that he liked so much. Even in his dreams, he wanted to woo her back home. If he could pair her with his grandson, he would not let the boy off easily. Master Lu finally thought of Fu Hanchuan. He did not want to monopolize Qin Sheng anymore. He kindly introduced Fu Hanchuan. Sheng Sheng, he's my grandson. He's 23 years old this year, and his grades are good. At 21 years old, he received a doctorate degree from Capital University. Now, he even started a company. He's never been in a relationship, never been on a blind date, and never had a girl he liked. After saying that, he went against his conscience and said, "My grandson has countless good points. He's good-looking, good at cooking, gentle, and considerate. I'm sure he'll be very doting to be his wife." Old Master Lu almost said that he wanted Qin Sheng and Fu Hanchuan to be together. Qin Sheng nodded in agreement. In her heart, Fu Hanchuan indeed had no flaws. Qin Sheng also had a negative EQ and knew nothing about relationships. Even in her previous life, Fu Hanchuan clearly showed that he liked her, but she didn't notice it at all. Naturally, she didn't know what Old Master Lu was hiding. When Old Master Lu mentioned Fu Hanchuan also sat up straight. On the surface, he was still very cold, but in fact, his palms were sweating. After introducing Fu Hanchuan, Old Master Lu said, "Sheng Sheng, if you have been wronged in H City, feel free to look for Grandpa Lu. Grandpa Lu can still speak to you in H City." After a pause, he said somewhat reluctantly, "You can also look for Hanchuan." Old Master Lu had read Qin Sheng's information and knew about her background. Her parents were also confused. They doted on an outsider who was not related by blood and wronged their own daughter. He felt sorry for Qin Sheng from the bottom of his heart. "Thank you, Grandpa." Qin Sheng smiled. Her clear eyes were full of gratitude to Old Master Lu. "It's not polite to say thank you." Old Master Lu pretended to be unhappy and continued to chat with Qin Sheng. After chatting for more than an hour, Fu Hanchuan could not get a word in. He raised his hand and looked at his watch countless times. In the end, he could not help but ask, "Grandpa, aren't you hungry?" Old Master Lu waved his hand and did not even turn his head. "Go and eat. Don't worry about me." Fu Hanchuan was expressionless. Sheng Sheng probably hasn't eaten for an entire afternoon. Old Master Lu patted his head. "Look at Grandpa Lu. He's forgotten that Sheng Sheng is starving." After saying that, he didn't even look at Fu Hanchuan as he pulled Qin Sheng to the dining table. "Fu Hanchuan, y punto." He could only sit at one side of the dining table with incomparable resentment. Sitting across from him was Qin Sheng. The Lu family was a scholarly family. They didn't have the habit of talking at the dining table. Old Master Lu finally stopped himself from talking non-stop. Qin Sheng ate very little. She stopped eating after less than half a bowl of rice. Fu Hanchuan looked at Qin Sheng's skinny body and frowned. She was too skinny. She was so skinny and small. He always felt that if he used a little strength, her wrist would break with a pinch. He had to give her more nourishment in the future. Old Master Lu noticed Fu Hanchuan's gaze and ate a mouthful of braised pork with soy sauce in satisfaction. Sheng Sheng was still the most charming one. Even his cold and indifferent grandson was attracted to her. After the meal, it was summer and the sky had already darkened. Qin Sheng was going back to the Qin family. Old Master Lu was reluctant to part with her. He held Qin Sheng's hand pitifully and kept reminding her, "Sheng Sheng, you must come and see this old man more often. It's too lonely living alone. No one comes to accompany me." Fu Hanchuan. "What about him? Wasn't he human?" "Grandpa Lu, I will." Qin Sheng looked at Fu Hanchuan with a hint of a smile in her eyes. Fu Hanchuan pressed the space between his eyebrows and said with a headache, "Grandpa, it's late. I'll send Sheng Sheng back first." Old Master Lu let go of Qin Sheng. He watched the car leave from afar and sighed. He kept muttering, "Sigh, my grandson has a daughter-in-law and despises me as his grandfather. It's not up to me when my grandson is older." His mouth was full of dissatisfaction towards Fu Hanchuan, but his eyes were full of smiles. Fu Hanchuan sent Qin Sheng to the entrance of the Qin family. The two of them made their move. Qin Sheng was about to leave when Fu Hanchuan stopped her. "Sheng, do you have a phone?" Qin Sheng tilted her head in confusion and took out her phone. Fu Hanchuan took the phone and gently tapped on the screen with his slender and good-looking fingers. The light from the phone shone on Fu Hanchuan's handsome face as if it was coated with a layer of light. It made him look even colder and even more handsome. Qin Sheng was also stunned when she saw it. She could not help but sigh. No wonder Qin Shuru was so infatuated with Fu Hanchuan in her previous life. Fu Hanchuan noticed Qin Sheng segaze. The corners of his lips curled up slightly and he slowed down his movements. After saving his information, Fu Hanchuan returned his phone to her. There were no contacts on Qin Sheng's phone yet. She could see at a glance that the first number on her contact list was Fu Hanchuan's. He had named himself Brother Fu. "Call me if there's anything." Fu Hanchuan was done. He paused and added, "I'll always be here." "Brother Fu, thank you." Qin Sheng felt a surge of warmth in her heart. She gripped her phone tightly, her heart burning. Fu Hanchuan's lips curled up slightly. He was very tall. Standing in front of Qin Sheng, he could only see the top of her hair. Fu Hanchuan could still imagine her faint smile, and his eyes softened. He raised his hand to rub Qin Sheng's hair. "The weather is cold tonight. Go in first." "Goodbye, then." Qin Sheng walked towards the door. Qin Sheng came to the door and pressed the doorbell. She stood at the door and waited for 10 minutes, but no one came to open the door. Fu Hanchuan frowned. He walked over and just took a few steps. He saw the door open. The one who opened the door was a middle-aged maid. When she saw Qin Sheng, she said in a strange tone, "Mrs. Back. Mr. and Madam have been waiting for you." Qin Sheng didn't say a word and walked in. Fu Hanchuan could hear the conversation coming from the villa, and his eyes narrowed unkindly. Thinking of the information he had found, he spat out, "Qin Hai, Lin Shuya." It seemed that he could give the Qin family some trouble. Fu Hanchuan felt even more sorry for Qin Sheng. She was only 17 years old, but she had already experienced the hardships that adults had never experienced. Since she was young, she didn't have the love of her parents. Even her living expenses and tuition fees were earned by herself. A 17-year-old girl should have grown up under the protection of her family. Fu Hanchuan leaned against the side of the car with one hand in his pocket. He looked at the villa with determination in his eyes. He would be the one to dote on Sheng. He could protect her like a little princess. Qin Sheng entered the villa. When the three people in the living room saw her, they immediately quieted down. "You're back," Qin Hai said indifferently. Lin Shuya turned her head and didn't even look at Qin Sheng. Her dislike for her was obvious. Qin Shuru also reacted. Her face was full of surprise. "Sister, it's so late. Why did you come back now? Where did you go? I was so worried. You just came to H City and are unfamiliar with the place. I was so afraid that you would get lost." Qin Sheng stopped in her tracks. She sneered, her eyes filled with endless mockery. "If I got lost, who caused it?" Qin Sheng's eyes were very clear, but Qin Shuro could not see clearly what was hidden in her eyes. All the dark thoughts in her heart seemed to have been seen by Qin Sheng. Qin Shuro pinched the hem of her clothes. She was worried that Qin Sheng would say something, so she decided to strike first. "Sister, I thought something happened to you. I didn't find you. I wanted to tell Mom and Dad, so I let the car come back first." Qin Sheng's gaze was very mocking. Qin Shuru was like this. She was used to pushing all the blame onto her. She was always soft and weak, winning the sympathy of others. Qin Shure's words were just a lie to Qin Hai and Lin Shuya. In her previous life, the Qin family's private car had always only picked up Qin Shuru. She could only walk or take the subway bus back. Qin Sheng did not expose Qin Shure's lie. She averted her gaze and walked upstairs. She did not want to spend a single moment with these hypocritical people. Shenger, Dad has been very busy recently. We won't be holding the banquet to announce you. It's good that Dad and Mom know that you are our daughter. You are also a sensible child. You shouldn't care about these superficial things, Qin Hai suddenly said. His words were dignified, but he didn't want to waste time on her. He was even more worried that others would know that Qin Sheng was their daughter. Whatever, Qin Sheng replied indifferently and went upstairs. Her eyes were a little red. Although she had told herself over and over that she shouldn't care about these so-called family ties, she couldn't help but feel sour. A biological daughter was far inferior to an outsider. She was also the daughter of a person who had deliberately swapped their biological flesh and blood, causing them to be separated for more than 10 years. No matter how much she tried to please them, she would never have a daughter like Qin Shuru in their eyes. She, Qin Sheng, was a dispensable existence in the Qin family. Qin Sheng sat in front of the table and adjusted her emotions. She turned on the computer and logged into Black Emperor. Her previous provocation had been effective. Her posts had already been blocked for dozens of floors. Everyone was mocking her for overestimating herself. There were not many, but it was enough. The moment Qin Sheng's ID appeared, some hackers noticed it and issued a challenge to her. One by one, the challenge posts popped up. Hacker 001 issued a challenge to QS. Thousand-Faced Man issued a challenge to QS. I'm Little Blackie issued a challenge to QS. Qin Sheng narrowed her eyes and casually clicked agree. The target of their attack this time was a virtual system. They needed to break through 3 lines of defense. This time, the other party did not put Qin Sheng in their eyes, so they chose a simple target to end it as soon as possible. They did not want to waste too much time on an arrogant person. Qin Sheng typed on the keyboard very slowly, and her expression was very relaxed. A small window appeared on her computer. It was the page on the opponent's computer. At this moment, many hackers were watching their competition, wanting to see how this QS was defeated. This kid is too arrogant. Do they really think that there's no one in our hacker world? It's been so many years, but this is the first time I've seen such a stupid person. They actually dared to provoke an expert of our hacker world. There's no need for an expert to make a move. Any random person can defeat him completely. This kid is a rookie who doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Look at his progress bar. Right now, not a single line of defense has been broken. This is truly an eye-opener for me. This stinky kid is going to lose for sure. While the discussion was in full swing, Qin Sheng sat in front of the computer. Seeing that the other party was still attacking the second line of defense, Qin Sheng lost her patience as well. Her fingertips flew over the computer and directly hacked the other party's computer. I'm Little Blackie, the hacker, thought that he had won. Just as he was feeling smug, he suddenly saw the computer's page shake a few times. He was stunned for a moment before he suddenly reacted. He typed furiously on the computer keyboard, and fine beads of cold sweat appeared on his forehead. A few seconds later, the computer. Black screen. Black screen. F***CK. I'm Little Blackie smashed the mouse onto the table. He stared at the computer with a face full of disbelief. He had actually been hacked without even knowing it. He had even been hacked. This was the greatest shame of the hacker world. I'm Little Blackie was doubting his life, and the others were also confused. Why had he suddenly gone offline? After a second of silence, everyone started discussing again. However, this time, the topic of discussion wasn't QS, but I'm Little Blackie, the hacker. What's going on? Why did he suddenly go offline? Is his computer broken? Who knows? He probably got seduced by a woman. You know what's going to happen next. Based on the past, I'm Little Blackie is not someone who would leave midway. L. Quick, look at QS. Someone shouted, and the hackers all looked at Qin Sheng's progress bar. Then, they saw QS, which had no progress at all. Broke through the first line of defense. 1 minute later, broke through the second line of defense. 2 minutes later, broke through the third line of defense. Broke through the system. The hackers stared blankly and forgot to react until the system notification, QS beats I'm Little Blackie. Lost? They finally reacted, and their expressions were complicated. Not only did QS win, they even broke through the first, second, and third lines of defense in just over 2 minutes. It seemed that even the highest record of the Black Emperor was not this fast. Instantly, they felt that their faces hurt. Some hackers posted to comfort them, QS just has good luck. The hackers who did not want to believe that QS had such strength echoed in the post. In the blink of an eye, they had scoured hundreds of floors, and there was no lack of hackers who came in to eat the melon. The stronger hackers once again issued a challenge to Qin Sheng. After this gamble, a small number of hackers chose to bet on QS to win, but the majority still bet on her to lose. Qin Sheng supported her chin with one hand. She was not in a hurry to accept the challenge, and her gaze was fixed on the bet. She did not know if she could place a bet. Thinking of the previous competition, all the hackers had bet on her to lose. If she also placed a bet, the odds might be over 100. Qin Sheng instantly felt her heart ache. Without hesitation, she bet all the money she had on her. There were 300,000, of which 200,000 were given to her by Qin Hai, and more than 100,000 were saved by herself. Qin Sheng had not come into contact with hackers for a long time. During the first match, she was a little rusty. This time, she was already in the zone. Hence, this scene appeared. QS defeats challenger. QS accepts defeat. 2 minutes later, QS defeats defeat. 4 minutes later, QS defeats Big Blackie. 5 minutes later, QS defeats Chicken. System announcements of QS's defeats popped up one after another, and in the end, one would appear less than a minute later. All the hackers were dumbfounded, and their jaws dropped to the ground. Was this world magical? Was it so easy to complete a challenge? Suddenly, a big red line appeared on the computer. QS took 40 seconds to conquer DY system, breaking the record of 50 seconds. All the hackers. They thought that it was just bronze, but it turned out to be a king. Thinking of their doubts about QS, they silently deleted the comments that slandered QS in the post. Today, they had been slapped in the face one after another, and it had never felt so good. After the record-breaking announcement came out, no one dared to challenge QS anymore. They did not want to go up and look for abuse, as the disparity in strength was too great. After watching Qin Sheng and the other hackers fight for so long, they had also seen clearly the strength of QS, so they naturally hid far away. They were not masochists either. There was still a portion of people who were unwilling to accept this. QS was too arrogant, and they could not take this lying down. They were not comparable to QS, but there was still someone who could defeat him. Therefore, many hackers went to leave messages for the top 10 hackers, asking them to come out and teach QS a lesson. F***CK. In a villa room, a youth who had watched the entire competition burst out with a curse. He had actually broken his record. His record had only been held for a month, and before he could warm up, it had been broken by a newcomer. Lu Ming was a person who loved to watch the show. He had been watching the match between QS and the other hackers the whole time, and was watching the show. He had not expected that this fire would actually burn him. Lu Ming's face was completely dark. It seemed that he needed to teach this arrogant person a lesson. He needed to know what he could and could not touch. Lu Ming opened his private message and there were already dozens of messages on it. Lu Ming loved to show off and show off. The hackers knew his personality very well. They were just trying to show off Lu Ming's face. Handsome, someone has set fire to your door. Why aren't you taking action? Handsome, prove your strength. Don't say that you don't dare to compete with QS. Handsome, your record isn't good. It's twice as fast as yours. When Lu Ming saw it, he was even angrier. He wanted to grab QS from the internet and beat them up. He typed on the keyboard. Don't worry, I'll make that son of a bitch kneel down and call me daddy. His tone was extremely arrogant. Lu Ming could already imagine the scene of QS losing and crying for his parents. QS was very powerful, but he was still a little weaker than him. The most handsome in the universe agreed to the challenge. The hackers were happy. After a few face slaps, some people did not dare to post to support the most handsome in the universe winning, but from the bottom of their hearts, they still favored the most handsome in the universe. Another bet. Lu Ming had already issued a challenge to Qin Sheng. In the previous match, Qin Sheng won and received 10 times the odds. She had already received more than 3 million and deposited it into her account. Qin Sheng narrowed her eyes and moved away from the amount in her account. Her gaze fell on the interface where Lu Ming challenged her. The most handsome in the universe, ranked 8th. The corner of Qin Sheng's lips curled up slightly. She had encountered this hacker in her previous life. She did not immediately agree to the challenge. Instead, she clicked the mouse with her fingertips and placed a bet. Only a small number of people bet on QS to win, so the odds this time were quite high. Qin Sheng looked at the balance in her account and bet all 3 million yuan.